What's up guys? I know it's been a while, but real quick, let's jump right into this tutorial and then we can talk more afterwards. Sound good? So if you couldn't tell, this armor is mainly made up of gym floor mat. 29 separate pieces of gym floor mat to be exact. Therefore, step 1 is to draw out all of your pieces. Since I made most of this armor before filming any of this, I'll be poorly demonstrating my main steps of this build on a mini shoulder piece. So here are all my measurements. I did use inches as my units, but if you prefer millimeters, all you have to do is multiply each number by 25.4. Also, keep in mind that the curved lines on shoulder parts C and D are the same. Since the hips on this armor can be loosened up, both my girlfriend and I can fit this, but you're more than welcome to change up the measurements to fit you. The next thing I did was cut all this out, but let's take a second to discuss the importance of sharp blades. When you make all these cuts, you're going to want to make the cleanest possible cuts, not ugly ones like this. So break off the dull part, get a new blade, or even just sharpen it. Trust me, this will save you so much work later on. Also, a side note to my side note, the two curved parts on the shoulder pieces need to be cut at an angle so that they can join together at a proper bend to match your body. If you're not skilled enough with a sharp blade to make perfectly angled cuts, just do a normal straight cut and then Dremel those edges down. Next up, I turn those other edges into beautifully rounded ones using these awesome sanding sticks. Props to the Evil Ted channel for helping me with my props. But yeah, start with your lowest grit sandpaper and work your way up to making it super smooth. I then got out the heat gun to not only burn off those leftover fuzzies, but to also warm the whole thing up so I can bend them into the shape I want. It's perfectly fine to burn them a wee bit since they'll be getting covered in paint anyways, but let's just avoid forest fires for this part, and for the rest of your life. Afterwards, I used a bit of barge cement glue to attach the shoulder pieces together. I recommend at least 2 layers of this stuff, but you have to wait for it to dry a little so that it's no longer tacky before the next layer. After applying coat number at least 2, carefully stick them together, and congratulations, they're forever bonded. Using my wood burner, I made a bunch of holes in all the armor pieces. This had to be done everywhere I was going to lace all these parts together. I actually broke the tip of my wood burner, so these holes are extra big, but pretty much the holes only need to be big enough to fit the string through without being too loose. Complete optional step, but if you want, you can add all these cracks like I've got throughout the armor. If not, just skip ahead. You may want to practice a little before doing this on your actual armor, but these cracks are made up by cutting into the foam at different depths and shooting them with a heat gun until they open up. This example should show you the difference between the two so that you can figure out how you want your cracks to look exactly. And finally, we can paint. I went through several layers of Plasti Dip to seal this thing, several layers of this red, and then a couple coats of matte clear paint just to finish it all up. Once all of that is dry, you're going to want to lace all of this together. I started with the shoulders, making sure that there's enough slack for the next piece to sit on top. Then I did the front, the back, and the hips, which leaves you with the shoulders, the body, and the top chest piece unattached. Before I get into how I put any of this together, I wanted to turn your attention to the back of these pieces and how I dremeled around each hole. We would be repeating this step for every hole to ensure that the rope stays put and doesn't rip out any of the spray paint that you may have gotten in the back of it when it gets tugged. Next, you'll need rope, a bunch of rope, about 6 inches long each, and with this hip armor, I can show you how it's attached. Starting with the bottom 3, go ahead and insert the rope into the top corners of all your parts, sticking through about 1 inch. Grab some sewing pins, a hot glue gun, hot glue sticks, and something that'll cut the excess rope easily. I started undoing the rope into 3 separate sections and started pinning them down. Also, try not to poke yourself because the pins will go all the way through. Doesn't feel too great. Next, I started adding much more hot glue than necessary around the ropes, but within the dremeled areas. I let it dry, removed the pins, and cut off the excess. This process was repeated for the rest of the parts, and then I was able to attach those parts to each other, and so on. To keep the shoulders attached to the arms, I used this black 3-inch knit elastic and cut it down the middle, giving me 2 1.5-inch strips. I then shortened these to a length that's comfortable but snug around my bicep. Afterwards, I dremeled a line down the center of the bottom arm piece so that I can glue down the edge of the elastic followed by the opposite end right on top. Attaching the shoulders onto the rest of the armor was a tricky one. In all reference photos, it looked like rope only held it together in the front and nothing supported the shoulders to each other or even down the back. And since he pretty much wears a black turtleneck dress thingy, actual name unknown, I decided that this was the solution. It holds the armor up around the back of your neck, and since it's painted black for the most part, it'll be hidden within the fabric of his turtleneck dress thingy. I just found the thinnest PVC pipe that the rope would fit into, inserted an excessive amount of rope, used a heat gun to bend it into shape, glued it to the shoulders, painted it black, and then we're ready to attach those three pieces together. For the last step, I fed the ropes from behind the top chest piece with the holes on the lower end, and then through the top of the body holes. I have about a 2-inch distance between the body and the shoulders, and since there is a double layer in between here, I fed the extra rope back towards the shoulders, glued it to the top chest piece, added a knot to keep it from fraying, cut it, and then added some more glue. So that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed my little comeback video. I am sorry it's not Deadpool related, and I do hope to see your versions of this build. So take some pictures, send them to me through Snapchat, Twitter, or Instagram, and I'll be happy to share them with everyone else. Also, I wanted to apologize for the lack of videos. I had to shift my focus to just family and work for a while, but now that I'm working a whole lot less, I want to get a lot more videos out. So I'll be working on smaller projects just to get the creative juices flowing, and I'll even post update videos on the bigger builds. But first, a huge thank you for all of your support, and a shout out to those of you who've been pushing me to post more videos. My brother Archie had a big influence on me posting sooner than later, so go over to his channel and say thank you. I have a bunch of ideas for my next few builds, so be on the lookout for my next one. It'll hopefully be on the shoes for this armor, so I hope you're excited for that one, and I'll see you there.